The moment the red wine hit my face, I didn't flinch. I froze. It slid down my forehead, into my eyes, bitter and cold, staining my shirt like a public accusation. Around me, crystal glasses chimed. Cutlery paused mid-air, and the room held its breath. Just long enough for my brother to break it with laughter. "Thanks, Mom," he said, grinning like this was entertainment. Teach him some manners. Trash. Trash. The word didn't echo. It settled. My mother didn't look shocked. She didn't apologize. Her hand still hovered in the air where the glass had been. Her expression calm, almost satisfied, like she'd corrected something long overdue. The smell of wine, mixed with the heavy New Year's dinner. Roasted meat, butter, smoke turning my stomach. I tasted metal at the back of my throat. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter. I gripped the back of my chair, tight enough to feel the wood press into my palm, grounding me. The room watched, waiting for a reaction. A shout, a scene. Something loud, something predictable. But I had learned long ago, noise was weakness in this house. So I stood up slowly. No words, no wiped face, no eye contact. Just one movement, deliberate and controlled. As I stepped away from the table, the laughter fading behind me, my phone felt heavier than usual in my hand. I made exactly one call, and as the line rang, I realized something they hadn't. They thought they had humiliated me. They had no idea who they had just insulted. I wasn't always the quiet one at that table. There was a time when I spoke first, laughed louder, tried harder, especially for them. My mother used to call me too sensitive, like it was a flaw that needed correcting. My brother turned it into a sport. Every mistake I made became a punchline. Every success quietly dismissed or claimed as luck. I learned early that in our house, volume mattered more than truth, and I didn't compete well in noise. So I adapted. While my brother built his reputation on charm and shortcuts, I stayed invisible. I listened more than I spoke. I noticed things. How my mother treated respect like a transaction. How approval was given sparingly, and only when it benefited her image. I stopped expecting fairness. It was never part of the system. They thought I lacked ambition because I never argued back. Thought I was weak because I chose silence over confrontation. What they didn't see were the years I spent building something outside their line of sight. Quiet decisions, strategic connections, late nights that had nothing to do with proving them wrong, and everything to do with never needing them again. By the time they started underestimating me, it was already too late. I had become someone they didn't understand, and worse for them, someone they couldn't control anymore. Dinner had always been a performance. Even before the wine, the tone was set in small, precise cuts. My brother arrived late. Of course, he always did, dropping into his chair like the evening had been waiting for him to begin. My mother smiled at him in a way she never smiled at me. Softer, warmer, as if his presence completed the picture. I had been there for an hour already. No one mentioned it. When I spoke, it was acknowledged with nods that ended conversations rather than continued them. When he spoke, even his half-formed thoughts were entertained, expanded, admired. I watched it happen the way you watch a familiar scene in a film. You know, every line, every pause, still working on whatever it is you do. My mother asked me at one point, her voice light, almost polite, but her eyes didn't linger long enough to care about the answer. Before I could respond, my brother leaned back, smirking. It's probably something small. He likes staying under the radar. A few quiet chuckles circled the table. Glasses lifted. No one looked at me directly. I noticed everything. The way my mother didn't correct him. The way she adjusted her napkin instead. Choosing silence as agreement. It wasn't loud. It never was. That's what made it so precise. The wine wasn't the beginning. It was the confirmation. As I stood there, feeling it drip from my chin onto the floor, I saw the pattern with a clarity that almost felt clinical. Not emotional, not reactive, just obvious. Every glance they avoided, every quiet dismissal, every moment they chose each other over me. It all aligned into something undeniable. This wasn't a family misunderstanding. It was a decision. Repeated, consistent, deliberate. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in them, but in me. I realized I had been waiting, not for an apology. I'd stopped expecting that years ago, but for acknowledgement, for some sign that they saw me as more than a convenient absence at their table. That was my mistake. Because the truth was simple. They didn't need to see me, as long as they believed I needed them. I looked at my brother, still smiling, still relaxed in his certainty. At my mother, now calmly dabbing the tablecloth as if nothing irreversible had just happened. And I understood something final. They thought they owned the narrative. They thought I would leave, cool off, and return, like I always had. That's when I decided I wouldn't correct them. I would let them keep believing that, right up until the moment it cost them everything. By the time I stepped outside, the night air had already done its job. Cold, precise, clarifying. The call I made wasn't impulsive. It was overdue. "I'm ready," I said, and nothing more. On the other end, there was a brief pause, then a simple acknowledgement. No questions. We had prepared for this moment months ago, because this wasn't about revenge in the emotional sense. It was about structure. For years, my mother had kept everything under her name, properties, accounts, the family business, while quietly relying on me to manage the parts she didn't understand. Contracts drafted in my language, partnerships negotiated through my contacts, risks assessed and absorbed without recognition. She trusted my silence. That was her first mistake. What she never realized was that I had built safeguards into everything I touched, clean, legal, unnoticeable unless activated, exit clauses, conditional authorizations, dependencies that looked like routine formalities until they weren't. And my brother, he had signed where he was told to sign, smiled through meetings he barely followed, benefited from systems he never questioned. I didn't need to raise my voice. I just needed to step back, because the moment I withdrew, legally, completely, and without warning, the structure they stood on wouldn't collapse dramatically. It would simply stop holding them up. The call lasted less than 2 minutes. By the time I returned inside, nothing had changed on the surface. Dessert had been served. Laughter had settled back into place. My chair was still slightly pulled out, as if I had only stepped away to take a breath. No one asked where I'd been. That was expected. I took my seat again, silent, composed, the faint stain on my shirt now dry. My brother glanced at me briefly, amused, then went back to his phone. My mother continued her conversation, her voice steady, controlled, already past the moment she had created. Midnight arrived with applause, glasses raised, and hollow wishes for a better year. I watched the clock tick over, and then, almost invisibly, things began. A phone buzzed. Not mine, my mother's. She frowned slightly as she read the message, her fingers pausing mid-air. Another notification followed. Then another. Across the table, my brother's smile faltered as his own phone lit up. Confusion replacing confidence. Emails, alerts, access changes. Small at first, easy to dismiss. Until they weren't. I didn't look at them. I didn't need to, because I knew exactly what they were seeing. Accounts requiring authorization that no longer existed. Agreements triggering clauses they had never read. Systems quietly locking them out. No noise, no scene. Just the slow, precise realization that something fundamental had shifted, and it wasn't coming back. At first, they tried to contain it. My mother straightened in her chair, her expression tightening into something controlled, almost rehearsed. She dismissed the first few alerts with a quiet, "It's probably nothing." But her voice had changed, just enough for anyone paying attention to notice. My brother wasn't as composed. "What is this?" he muttered, scrolling faster now, the confidence draining from his face. "Why can't I access?" He stopped mid-sentence, glancing at her, waiting for an answer she didn't have. The room shifted, conversations slowed. People noticed. Reputation had always mattered to them, how things looked, how smoothly everything appeared to function. And now, in real time, that illusion was cracking. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to make everyone uncomfortable. My mother finally looked at me, not with anger, not yet, with uncertainty. It was new on her face, unfamiliar, because for the first time, she didn't understand the situation or her place in it. And that was the real consequence. Not the accounts, not the contracts, control. They had built their confidence on the assumption that I would always stay predictable, always stay beneath them. Watching that belief unravel piece by piece was quieter than any argument, but far more permanent. Because some realizations don't just change a moment, they change how you see everything that came before it. I didn't stay long after that. There was nothing left for me at that table. Not anger, not closure, not even the need to explain. Whatever existed between us had already been defined long before tonight. All I had done was stop pretending otherwise. Outside, the air felt different, lighter. For years, I thought silence meant endurance. That strength was measured by how much you could tamel without breaking. But I see it clearly now. Real strength is knowing when to step away and doing it without needing permission. What happens next is simple. They'll try to fix it, call people, rebuild what they can. Maybe even reach out to me, not with apologies, but with carefully chosen words meant to restore balance. Not because they understand, but because they need to. And for the first time, I won't respond. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I've already built what I need. Independent, quiet, untouched by their approval. There's no satisfaction in watching them struggle, only a steady sense of distance and something close to peace. Some endings don't come with noise or confrontation, just a quiet decision. And the understanding that you were never what they said you were, only what they needed you to believe.